They stole my human rights.
She knew right there and then that she wouldn't see her daughter again.
Myself and my two other siblings were taken off my mum and sent to the local orphanage.
I left the home. A group of Aboriginal kids came in, my first sighting of other Aboriginal kids.
God.
And, sadly, some of those kids never saw their parents ever again.
We were arrested, we were handcuffed, and we were taken back.
November 11th, 1869, the Aboriginal Protection Act was put in place. The act allowed the colony of Victoria to regulate the lives of Aboriginals. Their rights were no longer theirs, as they were told that they could only have small portions of land for their tribes.
1897. The Aboriginal Protection Act and Restriction of the Sale of Opium Act allows the Chief Protector of the Aboriginal people, whom is assigned by the government, to remove the Aboriginal people, put them into reserves, take their children away, and put the children into dormitories.
1901. Australia becomes a federation. The Constitution stated that Aboriginal people would not be counted in the census. It made it so the Commonwealth could make laws about any race in Australia, with the exception of Aboriginal peoples.
1905. The Aborigines Act was passed. Under the Aborigines Act, the Chief Protector of the Aboriginal people would be the legal guardian, chosen by the government, of any Aboriginal child under the age of 16.
1909. The Aborigines Protection Act gives the Aborigines Protection Board power to assume full control and custody of any Aboriginal person if court found the child to be neglected under the Neglected and Juvenile Offenders Act that was made in 1905. 1910. The Stolen Generation begins. The Stolen Generation is defined as the people that were taken from their homes in between the time frame of 1910 to 1970. The people of Australia are still recovering from the effects of the actions put upon the stolen generations to this day. The Aborigines Protection Amending Act was appointed into law. This act was introduced by the Aborigines Protection Board, a board which was supposed to help protect and provide safety for the Aboriginal people. Section 4, Part A, states that the board may assume full control and custody of the child of any Aborigine, if after due inquiry it is satisfied that such a course is in the interest of the moral or physical welfare of such child. The Aborigines Protection Board was able to assume full custody of all and any Aborigine child, and if they felt the child was being neglected, they could remove the child from their Aboriginal family. Aborigine children were removed from their homes if officers felt they were abused or if the children were half-caste, half-white, and taken to institutions or homes to be trained. Due to all the racism towards the Aborigines, this happened quite often and resulted in thousands of children being ripped from their homes. The nonfiction movie and book, A Rabbit-Proof Fence, showed the removal of children from their homes. The children, Molly Craig, Daisy, and Gracie, were all brutally torn away from their families by the police in the film. Children slept on cots which were lined up on the floor with no padding. This environment did not permit them to have some basic human rights that they would have had where they were living before. The children in the institutions would be punished by isolation in a shed where they could not eat or get any sunlight. Another way of punishment was also whipping the children while others were watching. Not only was that abuse, that was also public humiliation.
A victim of the stolen generation was Millicent. She was removed from her family when she was only 4 years old, along with her brother Colin. When she was removed from her family, they were told that she would still be able to see her family every Sunday, but she never saw them again. During her stay at Sister Kate's home, she was abused, physically and verbally, raped, and forced to not engage with any of her previous culture. Millicent said, "All they contributed to our upbringing and future was an unrepairable scar of loneliness, mistrust, hatred, and bitterness." Soon after moving into Sister Kate's home, Colin was taken away and moved somewhere else, leaving Millicent alone without family or friends. When Sunday came and Millicent waited for her parents, they never came. They were never allowed to come see her, but Millicent did not know that. She was told that her parents did not want her, that they did not care, and that she was gone. She was told to be ashamed of her family and that she should shun all of her Aborigine culture. 3 times a day, she was forced to attend church, and if she was naughty, she was forced to kneel and beg for forgiveness at the altar all day. They would also be forced to hold down other children while they were being whipped with a wet cord, or even be whipped themselves. When she went to a farm to help with farm work, she was raped several times and later ended up pregnant because of this.
In 1969, the Aborigines Protection Board was removed because new groups were created like the AICCA, Aboriginal and Islander Child Care Agencies. This ended the Stolen Generation, mainly the internment camps, and removed the Aborigines Protection Amending Act. On February 13, 2008, the Prime Minister apologized for all the human rights violations that occurred to the Stolen Generation.
The oldest continuing cultures in human history. We reflect on their past mistreatment. We reflect in particular on the mistreatment of those who were stolen generations. This blemished chapter in our national history. The time has now come for the nation to turn a new page. A new page in Australia's history by righting the wrongs of the past and so moving forward with confidence to the future.
Even though the internment camps were abolished, the children are still taken from their Aboriginal homes. In 2012, 46.6 out of every 1,000 Aboriginal children were in out-of-home care. In 2017, this number rose to 56.6 Aboriginal children in out-of-home care, and in 2013, 24.8 out of every 1,000 Aboriginal infants were in out-of-home care. This number again rose in 2016 to 29.1 out of every 1,000 Aboriginal infants. The removal of the Aborigines Protection Board did abolish the Aborigines Protection Amending Act, but did not stop the removal of the Aboriginal children.
From colonization to present day, the Aboriginal people have always been treated as less than equals. When colonizers came, they raped, massacred, and abused the Aboriginal people. Later on, they ripped Aboriginal children from their parents because they seemed to be half-castes. These children were then verbally abused, told their parents did not want them and did not love them. They were told to shun their culture and hate themselves for being Aboriginal. When a farmer raped Millicent, she was told to not speak of it to any of the other girls and was whipped for even mentioning it to the adults at the internment camp. These horrors are what we call the Stolen Generation.
Part of my life is being taken.
I wasn't allowed to speak.
I'm A.O. Neville, who introduced the absorption policy in an effort to breed out the colour.
And we must make sure it never, ever happens again.